Well, hello, folks, and welcome to another episode of Cycle Chat with me, Richard Lake. This week, I've got two guests on this Christmas Day special. This week's guests, a happy couple.
How are you doing?
Wondering why I'm lying on the floor.
I thought people were arty to lie on the floor. And we have to whisper.
Come from the Peak District. They've recently moved there from London. I say recently, I think it's been about 18 months now, actually. He started a farm after buying a little bit of land. Got themselves a puppy named Bean. Collectively, they call themselves Bun and Beard. I have with me on this week's edition of Cycle Chat, George and Jess. So, George, can you tell me about yourself? Introduce yourself.
Yeah, sure. So, I'm George. I am the beard part of the Bun Beard.
Glad you clarified that.
Yeah. I run a cycling company. I have done for the last 5 or 6 years. We sponsor a race team. We used to be a distributor, but we're now just more of a brand. I race myself. Most things I do involve thinking about when I'm next going to be on my bike, or I'm indeed on my bike thinking about what I do when I get off my bike. So, yeah, that's me, I suppose.
What about you, Jess?
I'd always describe myself as like a runner turned cyclist. I've been cycling. I actually started cycling in London as a way of commuting, really. Before that, I'd done a lot of spin classes because I was rehabbing from injury after injury after injury. And then, as cycling seems to do, it sort of sunk its claws in and took over pretty much everything. And I started working for Jam Cycling. I do sort of various social media bits, and most recently I've been part of a group of women, a sort of amateur team called the Internationelles, and we positively disrupt about equality in cycling.
What about yourself, George? How did you sort of get into cycling then?
Similar, actually.
Yeah.
I mainly got it because of commuting. When I first moved to London, I was living with a group of uni mates. Only one of us was a bike rider, was a commuter. And we all used to pick on him for it. At first, we used to think it was the weirdest thing. He'd turn up in his full lycra. He got handed down from his dad, and he had actual clippy cycling shoes, 12 years ago to commute by bike. Had a bright green Bianchi, which at the time we all looked at, thought, what is this? What is this fella doing? Until one day I needed to use the bike to get myself somewhere, and I'd probably got on the bike for the first time in, 15 years at that point. And I was like, wow, okay, now I remember what's cool about bikes. And as soon as I'd been on his for a few days, I went and got myself a commuter bike, and then I haven't got off it since.
You both no longer live in London. You live in the Peak District.
Nearly. A
year and a half ago, maybe.
How long ago?
Yeah, it's about that. Yeah, it's about that. It doesn't seem like that longer, but that's it. We'd spent so long in London as bike riders, working out where to go for our rides and how to get out of London on bike as quick as possible to go and enjoy a proper bike ride. And every opportunity that we weren't working, we were going and doing stuff in the countryside, running up and down hills or riding or exploring. We just cut the distance between us having to commute to that start point and just actually living there.
Yeah.
But I'm from Sheffield originally, so that's kind of why we picked the Peak, because we thought about the Lake District.
We did, yeah. We thought further north, didn't we?
But then
looked at the Yorkshire Dales, but then you tethered us to what I was sceptical at first. Like, no, let's go further north. Let's go somewhere a bit more remote. And Jess pulled us here, and we found the Hope Valley, and not really left since, have we?
Nice place between Manchester and Sheffield. There's just this beautiful national park right in the middle there.
I mean, you can see why those cities are so popular, especially Sheffield, because it literally is on the border with coming into the national park. And then once you're in here, you've got so much space to play and roam. It's great. And we live basically slap bang in the middle, and therefore the access we have to everything at any point in the day. You go out when you go for a ride on a nice Tuesday morning, you won't see anybody if you don't want to.
Yeah.
It's great.
So what would you, question for you, Jess, what would you say is your sort of favourite part about going on the bike, out on your bike somewhere? Is it the route, the people you meet, or something else maybe?
Because we'll have different answers to this. Yeah, very different.
For me, I think for me it's finding. So one thing I love to do is find like cafes and ride to them. That's quite often like the focal point of my ride, and we're quite different in that respect, because George likes to do a route and then maybe finish with a coffee, but I quite like a midpoint of a coffee and either do an out and back or go around. But yeah, I love to, if I in a dream world, I go somewhere different on every single bike ride. That would be like my pinnacle bike riding. When I'm sort of in training, that's more difficult because you've got restraints and time limits, and you're trying to do a base ride or trying to do this or that. So yeah, my favourite thing is just going on an adventure, maybe a bit more of a long ride, like maybe 4 or 5 hours, nice and steady, taking in views, stopping and eating, stopping and drinking.
Stopping and gramming, yeah. The things about bike riding that are important to me is the opposite end of that spectrum. I like going fast, I like going hard, I like knowing like the routes that I'm on and optimizing how I flow through corners and stuff like this, and those are the bit that endorphin seeking, basically anything that basically like jacks up the adrenaline, release the endorphins. That's what when I think about riding my bike, that's the bit that gets me excited. And then when I get on the bike, that's the bit that I start to go, oh yeah, cool, this is a steady ride, but let's just go down this hill real fast. So or better, let's go up this hill real fast and try and chase my PB up there or whatever it happens to be. So yeah, for me, it's an energy-seeking kind of adrenaline rush. It goes back to when I used to, as a kid, had skied and surfed and all these things. So it's a slight different way of. When we go out on a Sunday, we have to like set the tone. Like, what are we doing today? And we have to really clarify between what's the agenda, because otherwise we try and pull it in different directions.
Yeah. Whose turn is it next?
Yeah. Jess will point out like. I sat on your wheel for 2 hours last week. This week we're going to coffee shops. Okay, yeah, fair, good point.
Have you ever bonked? Have you had problems with fueling on the ride and just feel like you can't go on anymore?
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
There's been some
Tell
weird
us some more.
cry. I do a weird I feel like I mentally bonk before I physically bonk. I don't know if that's a thing, but we've had it before where I'll be going up a climb and my body's still moving, but I'll just start crying.
She will.
And then George will be like, oh no, do we need to stop? And I'm like, no! And I'll keep pedaling, but I'll be crying. But then I know at that point, I'm like, I need to, then I'll eat.
Yeah, do
because that's like, bonk is coming.
Yeah. The fear of the bonk is what gets you.
Yeah.
It makes you cry. Yeah. No, I bonked a few times, mainly when I've been on a training camp or whatever, and I've I've got too carried away in that like climb or effort or chasing somebody or showing off, and just forgot to stick some calories in my face. That's the traditional like where I fall down. But the worst one was when we did LEL.
Yeah.
I fell asleep riding my bike. It was like I was riding up a hill and I was so tired. My eyes shut and I fell asleep on the bike, and I caught myself like unclipping and like getting off. And it was a combination of super tired and I hadn't fueled that whole morning at all. So everything was getting against me, and it wasn't just like a tantrum or a sugar low. It was a full body shutdown.
So this is London, Edinburgh, London. Is that right? Was that 2017 then?
Yeah.
Okay. That
was the maiden ride that we kind of hung out and met on, really, wasn't it?
Yeah.
We knew each other in the same social circle before that. We didn't really spend any time together properly until that ride. Oh, I just love the mixed bag of people that were doing it. It was so varied, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The amount of people that you just like, you look at the what in other situations you go, oh, you're quite an elderly woman or whatever it happens to be, and she's like, it's 4 o'clock in the morning, I'm cracking on day 4, like not an issue. Or it was, or you're like, oh, you're quite a young, completely on your own. It was such a broad spectrum of different bike riders. It was so different that when you go to like a Grand Fondo, and most will fit within a certain narrow bracket of enthusiasts. It was just demographic. Yeah. It was just wide, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I just love the rate. Like some people are on kind of, I don't know, like almost like just a commuter bike.
Yeah.
And then you get the other end of the spectrum, like full aero.
Yeah.
And I just loved it.
It was
I loved
great.
meeting everyone and seeing everyone. And,
Do either of you have any memories of crossing the Lincolnshire Fens at all?
In both directions.
Oh yeah. It was
savage.
Both ways was tricky, wasn't it?
On the way home, this
hard.
was when me, you, and Elle and Ellie had like created a little group, and you like cajoled us into like a rolling echelon thing.
Yeah.
None of us had any idea what the heck was going on.
I was trying to teach us how to ride effectively through the headwind, because we had 40 miles of headwind to navigate. I was like, well, come on, let's roll round. I've been teaching it slowly.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I ended up me doing significantly longer turns on the front I was after. But then, give me a few moments break and I can come back round again. But it worked great. It worked great.
Kept trying to join in.
Yes, in fact, we had to quite often just keep people away from our tail because you're all working so well and so hard. Yeah. I didn't want anybody else to come in who didn't know what to do and disrupt that. So actually, a key role in it is actually what we call the rear gunner. So no, if you're not part of this, you stay away, please, unless you're going to come and announce yourself and say hello and integrate.
So, George, I often see you riding around with headphones. What do you sing while you're on your bike?
Mainly Bruce Springsteen while I'm on the bike, to be honest. That's my key sing. I listen to a variety of things depending on which mood I'm in and which mood I want to be in by the time I finish the bike ride. Quite often I'll put on a playlist to mean that, I'm a bit grumpy when I've got on, but actually I want to finish up here, so let's put on some music that will take me there. I'm a rock and roll man at heart.
So early this year you went to an auction and you randomly ended up buying a piece of land near home. Yeah. How's that coming along? You turn it into a farm or something?
Well, when we bought the land, it was just opportunistically. We had moved to this little village in the middle of Hope Valley, and it was locked down. So there's nobody around. It's proper lockdown one, where there's nobody about. We'd go out for a walk 2 or 3 hours in the day because we could, because in the middle of nowhere, and we wouldn't see anybody, would we? And all of a sudden, somehow out of nowhere, this auction sign appeared on a bit of land not far from where we were trying to buy a house. So I was like, well, if there's going to be an auction, no one's going to have seen this sign. Like there might be like 10 other people in this area that might have seen the sign, of which most of them aren't going to be interested. So stop it, I'll just go. One of the benefits of moving to this part of the country is if you've prepared for 10 years to buy a flat in central London, when you don't live in central London anymore, that money goes a lot further. So we were looking at, we could go to the auction. We could maybe put in a bid or two and see if we can get.
See what it's about.
Yeah. And at that time, we didn't really have any main ideas of what we would do with it, did we? We thought we'd get it, and we'd just figure it out from there. Maybe one day 10 years down the line, we might get permission to build a house, or before that, we might do some little events on it, or we might have our wedding on there. Who knows? But once we've got it, we've got the choice. So we went to the auction, and as much as I love riding bikes or jumping out of planes, or whatever else happens to be, that auction was so intense because everybody who was there wanted it. The guy who ran the auction told me afterwards, normally it's like 100 people in the building. There's a lot of people just watching and enjoying the moment. But on that day, if you'd seen the sign and you'd made it to the auction because of lockdown, you were there because you really wanted it. So the battle was quite fierce. It was such a rush, but got it. Really happy with it. We now have a load of animals, and we're hoping we're trying to turn it into a little sustainable eco farm that we can basically get a lot of food that we consume off of that bit of land, and also at the same time use it as a bit of a learning curve for ourselves, what's possible in an environmentally friendly way. What events we tie into that in terms of bringing bike riders into the valley and have some pop-up camping and do some stuff like that. So it's basically given us some options, and it's become a bit of a hobby of mine, hasn't it, really? Yeah.
In one of your last videos, I remember you shooting what was going on while she was on your digger. Have you got the hand of using that now, or is the digger gone?
One of the things that we didn't know when we got the land is what's it like? And what we quickly realised is it's wet. It's really wet. There's drainage below it. Yeah, the drains are rubbish. So I spoke to But one of the key things that I can do well is I can basically find stuff out. Like, I'm not afraid to go and talk to people. So I basically spoke to everybody who'd ever owned it, and all the people who'd worked that land and lived around it, got to tell me everything they knew about it. And the key thing they kept saying is it's got crap drains underneath. So there was a sunny spell in the weather, and I convinced the local farmer to lend me a digger for about 5 days, and I just started digging holes, finding these drains, pulling them up and putting in new ones. I don't think the farmer realised what he was getting into when he said, "Yeah, I'll give you a digger. Have you used one before?" I was like, "Yeah." He'd pick it up every evening. The thing would just be a state, because I'd learned by watching a YouTube video for 2.5 minutes. Hey, pour this leather, that can't be that hard.
Did you give it back clean?
It was never clean when I gave it. It was an absolute state. When he
First rule of tutoring.
he came to pick it up every night, and it was an absolute mess.
So if we come to you, Jess, then you mentioned earlier about the Internationelles. I think that was the sort of tail end of summer that you did a bit of a gathering to promote the inequalities, I guess, between men and women in cycling and other sports. I wonder if you want to talk about that a little bit more. How important is that to you?
Yeah, so massively, basically. I think I was quite oblivious to like all kinds of inequality, really, for a lot of years. I was brought up, I've got 3 sisters, so I was brought up in a family of women, and a dad who, you know, we went off to karate. I had a sister that played the drums. My mum was obsessed with football. A lot of those gender stereotypes weren't like evident in my growing up, and I went to a girls' school actually, where again they were, you know, they expected us to be high performing in everything we did, and so I was a runner, and in running, for every men's race there's a women's race, and yeah, there's certain differences. Women's cross country races are a bit shorter. If you watch the Olympics and stuff like that, certain events are tailored slightly down, I'd say, for women, but nothing, you know, only to optimize, I think, kind of performance. And, you know, it all comes down to the spectators making a cool spectator sport. And then I started cycling and I was like, what is this? You know, you just I couldn't get a bike that fitted me, or that was like, that wasn't pink or purple or with flowers on it. I couldn't get a kit. And then when I started trying to get into racing, there wouldn't be events or as many events for women, or you'd sign up to it and then 3 days before the event they'd cancel it and just be like, oh, sorry, you know, there's not many of you, and it's not, you know, it's not worth our time. And I just sort of delved deeper, just started delving deeper into things and realizing it was all a bit off kilter. And then I was lucky enough basically I know Lou Gibson, and she set up the sort of international team called the Internationelles, which was off the back of something called Donon des Ailes de Vélo, and they're a French team who've ridden the whole Tour de France the day before the men. They've done that for 5 years, but it's quite difficult to get on their team unless you're French. So Lou Gibson sort of liaised with them, and they were like, yeah, you can set up an international team. And I couldn't do it in 2019 for sort of work reasons and stuff. Last year I was able to be on the team. I took the place of a few of the women who did it the first year, couldn't commit to it this year, so I got a spot. And then unfortunately, due to lockdown, we had to change our plan, and we did a version of the tour where we rode a relay to cover the distance, and we tried to do that as fast as possible between 10 of us, and we did that in 99 hours, I think it was, in the end. 99 hours. It
was quick.
And then all of us did an Everesting.
Did an Everesting more or less the next day, was it?
Yeah, so depending on when your last stint was on the turbo bit, I was quite lucky. I got about a day and a half to recover. Some of the girls only got a day.
Yeah.
And then we did the Everest. 5 of us did it in Wales, on a hill called the Bwlch, which is a nice steady climb actually, and we got a tailwind on that day. So now every ride when I get a headwind, I'm like, I deserve this, because I was so lucky that day to have a tailwind. And then our sort of 5 American, Australian, Dutch friends, they did, most of them did a virtual. The Dutch girl did an an actual Everest. But yeah,
Somehow in Holland, she found a hill to Everest.
Yeah.
yeah.
There's a lot of bridges.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole point being to raise that conversation of why, for a professional cyclist, why a lot of them can't actually solely be a professional cyclist. They have to have a job on the side. Why they don't have, it doesn't have to be that they have a Tour de France, but something as like epic, something that the whole world can easily watch. I'm quite a keen cyclist, and I find it really difficult to watch women cycling. I have to buy a pass or go online or find some obscure YouTube link. And it shouldn't be like that. And
no, it should be accessible for everyone to enjoy and watch.
If you're a 9-year-old girl flicking through the TV channels trying to find something to watch, you are never, ever going to find a women's bike race to inspire you. You just won't find it.
Right. And so then it all filters down. I would love just generally to see more people doing sport and more women, climbing on bikes or putting on running shoes or whatever that is.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What about going forward into next year? Is there any sort of plans to sort of keep that ball rolling?
Definitely. So we'll keep going until we feel like some positive change is being made, and we're hoping to be able to do the Tour next year. So all of us are kind of getting back into training again, and just fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed that we can actually do the Tour next year. But
I introduced a bit of a game here on Cycle Chat. It's kind of a this and that kind of quiz. So if you'd like to play along, so for example, George, your favourite colour, red or blue?
Blue.
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 It's against the clock. I'll give you 60 seconds, or see how many we can get through. George, Jess, you've got a minute. I'm going to get through as many as we possibly can. So 3, 2, 1. Jess, hills or flat?
hills.
Nice.
Okay, George, what about indoors on Zwift or out in the great outdoors?
Outdoor.
Jess, tea or coffee?
Coffee.
George, 80s or 90s music?
80s.
Oh, okay. Jess, toilet paper, over or under?
Under.
Same question to you, George.
Actually, over. Yeah.
Jess, Coke or Pepsi?
Pepsi.
Whoa.
Next one. I'll ask you this, George. Shaved legs or not shaved legs?
Yeah, shaved legs.
Yeah. Okay. A question to both of you. Perhaps Jess first. Cups in the cupboard, right side up or upside down?
Ooh, right side up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You agree?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, we're out of time. I'll do one more, shall I? George first. Actually, this is a question for Jess. Mam tour or lift to the top?
I gotta say, Mam Tour.
Yeah, you've got to. 'Cause we live
Depends how we-
Would you like to tell the viewers why I've asked that question?
So, it's an excellent question. It must have been last vlog or the vlog before. You were going off on a ride. But so we live at the bottom of Mantor. Like if I look out the window there, it's right there. So if you want to go to that part of the Peak District, you have to go over one of the hardest climbs in the country. To start
It's a tough one.
It's a toughie. So every now and again, it is legit to say, please give me a lift to the top of the hill so I can start my ride without having to go over it.
In my defence,
Go on.
I've often got to do like a lot of endurance rides, and I've got a heart rate cap. If anyone can get up there without getting over 140 beats per minute,
Yeah.
It's one of those climbs that no
You're on the
matter
red
how
line.
true- Yeah, you're on the red line no matter how true you take it. You've got one speed up there. It's your max hill speed. That's it.
Yeah.
So that day in the vlog, I gave a lift up the top so you could then go on a nice bike ride.
yeah.
So if we move on to talk about your channel a little bit more, George, maybe can you tell me how and why you got into doing YouTube videos and things like that?
We were thrust into it. So we were part of the Francis Cade channel for a long time. I first started riding with Franny back before he started riding on his vlog. I remember meeting him for the first time. He'd got a fixie bike. He'd just come back from India, and he'd started vlogging about his trips abroad as opposed to about bike riding. even though he'd been a professional bike rider before. So from hanging out with Francis, we were just in the vlogs a bunch, weren't we, for a number of years, especially when Francis then worked for Jam for a long time. He would usually vlog whilst at work. We were always in front of the camera a lot, and we'd do trips together and all this kind of stuff. So when we then moved out of London, there was a bit of a void then opened up in that we still had a voice and things we wanted to be able to communicate and do. And I really enjoyed that process of filming and think about how to film and what to film. But I didn't have any of the skills. So I really wanted to learn. I always looked at Francis and go, oh, you do so much so well. How do you do this? Knowing that he taught himself just over a few years of hard work, because I'd love to acquire those skills. So we got ourselves a tiny little camera, didn't we? Remember that first little camera? The strap was actually bigger than the camera, and we it was a way of replacing what the Cade vlog meant to us, and basically starting our own. So we still have that kind of thing in our lives. So that's where it started, and that's where it's kind of remained, hasn't it? We've always done it for the enjoyment of doing it when we've got something interesting we want to talk about. And I really like the process of doing the filming and the videography and the editing and that kind of stuff. And you like it when I think we've got like a key point we want to talk about and think that it's worthy of other people knowing. So that's where it's kind of come from.
So perhaps you can share with viewers a little bit more about the creative process then. That goes into videos, software, maybe talk about that. Where you get your ideas from?
Honestly, all of my ideas come from when I'm sat on the bike. Every single one of the vlogs we've ever made, I have normally sat on the bike thinking about something creatively, think about a particular problem or a particular topic, and I will then come up with a proposition of how that could be a vlog, how we could talk about this at large. Obviously there are certain times that, we're going for a bike fit today, so let's just talk about the bike fit. More often than not, it's I've sat there one evening on Zwift or out on a bike ride about, you know what's really got under my skin, or you know what I really like or admire, let's talk about that in a vlog. And I'll come back and I'll kind of pitch it to Jess, and she'll be like, yeah, I'm interested in that one, or she'll be like, no, that's a rubbish one, you do that by yourself. But sometimes we don't always want to do exactly the same thing, and we don't put any pressure on each other to do that. I don't say you have to be in this one because I really want to talk about shaving my legs as a man.
I loves it, mate. I absolutely loves it.
But I did that one because I probably thought about it for 2 or 3 months of what's interesting about this. What is it about it that a load of people, that some do, some don't, and those ideas, they germinate over a long time. From the video point of view, I just enjoy doing it. I found myself doing a lot of the creative video and photo work for my business in the last couple of years since we moved out of London. And I've really enjoyed playing with the camera and getting to learn and doing the camera well. It's a skill, but it's an accessible skill. I don't have to have gone and done a degree to do it. I don't have to go and have intern for 10 years to learn it intimately. You can get intimate with the camera in just a few months of being hands-on day after day.
Lots of trial and error, isn't it? And
shoot something, stick it in the computer, look at it and go, holy Jemima, that is rubbish. But then knowing what I've done that's bad, and then next time doing it better, we actually, all the cameras and all the equipment we bought from Francis secondhand. So he went up, when we left London, he was probably on 70,000 subscribers, 67,000 subscribers. He was looking to upgrade and a few things. He upgraded some of his equipment. I just bought all of his secondhand equipment. Still got it to this day. It's what we use now. We'd spent time around him on trips. Like we went to Vanuatu, we'd go on training camps, and we'd see how he constructs his day. So that for when he's getting out of camera and he's asking you a question, he's leading you down a narrative that he's already formed in his head that's going to be the central part of his vlog. And then we'd see him stop at the end of the day and start the edit and how he did his edit and how he did his process. And we were just part of that by being friends with him. So for us to start our vlog, we actually had a massive leap forward because we'd lived that life just without actually doing the intricate bits.
But you do all the. I don't do any of the camera work or the editing or anything.
You did to begin with.
Completely in
You
front
did-
of the camera.
You did half the editing to begin with. We shared it.
Yeah, but we just botched it a little bit.
Yeah, I've enjoyed that part more, so I've taken it on myself to learn that more.
You use Lightroom? No, what do you use?
We use Premiere Pro for all of the editing, and I found myself getting better and better at it all the time just by doing more. We're coming up, I think the next two that go out are number 90 and 91, I think, are vlogs, which they're both, I finished editing them today, they probably go out in the next few days. And they actually go out, as a first time, they go out as a pair. They're a match pair, one leads straight into the other. And I've enjoyed that part of learning that creative side. I've not really felt like a creative person before picking up a camera.
So there's lots of different things you've learned from sort of day one. What would you say was your sort of most important thing that you've learned from picking up the camera and doing what you're doing now?
Taking a photograph is something that there are certain things that I think that are kind of like life skills. I think once you've acquired that life skill, it becomes important to your whole existence. How to sit down and read and enjoy a good book, I think, is a life skill, right? If you can look at something, recognize its value to you, invest your time and sit and drink it in, that's a life skill. Some people refer to going and playing golf is a life skill. If you learn how to master an intimate game like chess or whatever, taking a photograph is an intricate learning process that now I know it, I'm not going to unknow that process. I've taken 50,000 photographs this year alone. And every time I do it, I'm learning, I get better. And I get such enjoyment out of just figuring it out, framing it, bang.
Yeah.
Put it into Lightroom, edit it the way that I'd seen it online. Perfect. I've taken something that I could see with my eyes and I've made it I can now share with people. I've done that myself. So, in answer to your question, just taking a photograph.
Yeah. Simple.
Really Yeah.
Question for you then, Jess. If you're looking back over the numerous videos and adventures that you've had over the last few years, which would you say was your sort of favourite moment and why, or holiday or something like that?
Oh, good. It's a great question. Thank you for asking this question.
Thank you, Riley. I tweeted the other day, my favourite week of this year was doing the stuff with the Internationelles. Not to just keep talking about it, but it was just like being surrounded by people who, who are like me and who have the same goals as me. That you sort of feed off that, and I came away from that like, oh my gosh, I want to do that again. I want to do it better. I want to do it more. In terms, I say like my favourite thing was probably when me, Franny and Chris did Bond 2. That was a really fun. The Singlers challenge where you do all three sides. That is always epic, and we got lucky with the weather. And it's just fun. Like I miss those days where me and you guys went and did like crazy epic things. Yeah. And they'd always be quite like kind of off the cuff. Someone like a week before would be like, shall we go and do that? And we'd do it. And we were lucky enough to have Franny with his camera to document it all, and you doing that as well. Like I think when I look through my Instagram account, I'm so lucky that I've been followed around by people who are good with cameras for like the past 5 years, so I can like remember what I've done. Yeah. It's hard to pick one thing.
The Internationelles one I think was special, wasn't it? Because it's the going to France and doing the actual thing they set out to do would have been great. Would have been absolutely so rewarding as the rider. Yeah. But as an alternative, getting to do it in such a small, intimate environment and all together and literally helping each other every single step of the way, I think was actually almost in a way, it was different, but it was kind of better in a way. I was sat there as video and photography the whole lot and just supporting and helping generally, sitting back and watching, God, this is actually really flipping hard, watching Jess start the 11:30 at night shift and having to go as hard as she frigging can, starting at 11:30 at night, and then all the other girls coming out and just like helping her through it, pushing her through it and talking her through it, and that was day after day after day, knowing they had to go on Everest like within 24 hours of stopping. It was really cool to watch all that.
We couldn't have asked for better kind of team building exercise. Like if
That's
we
true.
can do it next year, the France version, I think the foundation of having what we had in September is only going to help us.
Yeah.
Like I know those girls now. I know their highs and lows. I don't know half the team, but the half I know. So
Yeah,
I think we were really lucky in a way. We made a positive out of a pretty negative situation, and we were lucky to have that.
If for anybody out there who's perhaps thinking about, for instance, doing Everesting, as you mentioned there, what would be your biggest kind of piece of advice or tip?
I'd say planning. They're quite it's quite finicky, to get it right. They've got quite a lot of rules about, so you can't include any elevation that might exist in the descent, for example. So you just got to make sure you've really checked your segment. You know exactly how many ascents you need to do. Eating, it's literally an eating competition. Like at the bottom and at the top, I was just filling my face with food, and then I carry food with me. And then I was lucky enough to have a coach who was able to work out basically a heart rate that if I rode at and kept eating, I would be able to complete it. So I just put that screen on my bike computer with my heart rate. That's all I looked at all day. I didn't know what time it was. I didn't know how long we'd been going. I didn't know how long we had left. I knew how many ascents I was doing, but other than that, I was like, I'm not looking at my power. I'm not looking at anything, because that heart rate gave me confidence. I was like, okay, if I stay here or a bit below, I know my body's not gonna fail on me.
Just trying to keep in that range. Sort of thing. So
Planning, eating, and knowing yourself so that you can pace it. It's so tempting to go off quick, because then you get it. You're like, I'll get it done quicker, but you probably won't. You'll probably explode.
Yeah, I mean, the planning that went into selecting the hill was extensive.
Yeah.
And that particular hill has, like Vom 2, it has 3 different ways up it, and like hours and hours of thought went into which ascent to take to make sure the girls stood the best chance to get there, because you pick the wrong side and all of a sudden you've integrated a 17% ramp in there that, while it might get some of the elevation chalked off a bit quicker, takes its toll at an exponential rate.
If you know your strengths, you can play to them. I think if you know you're kind of powerful and you can recover quickly, maybe that kind of climb works for you. But I think most of us in that team are like kind of slow, steady, we can go all day, kind of ladies.
It's an endurance sport, and you guys are endurance athletes, and you put an endurance hill.
No, it's not necessarily the number of reps at all. It's how easy it is to climb. Gradual or what?
Yeah.
Can you tell us what you got coming up in on your channel over the next few months, or what you might be looking to do?
Yeah, we can actually. So the rule we've always had is that we want to make content that we enjoy making and that can just be honest. We don't overdo videos. You never find us doing kind of 4 or 5 videos a week, really. We'll make stuff when we have something we want to talk about and want to kind of like communicate a point or start a conversation with people. So there's basically just more of that. There are so many topics within cycling and sport in general that are important to us, that when we sit down at a breakfast or a dinner or just during the day, that we'll talk about, and then I'll kind of go, let's do a vlog on that one. Let's talk about this thing, about how there is almost 0 girls aged 13, 14 getting into bike riding, for instance. Or let's talk about the number of people having accidents on the road. All these, let's talk about the different events that we want to go to, but we can't. It's for us, it's an outlet and a conversation starter. So from that point of view, it's more and more of the same. We've had discussions this year with potentials of doing different sponsored options and things like that, and we've kind of like almost moved towards just keeping it as kind of neutral as possible and under our own kind of spectre of, what do we want to talk about this month? What's important to us? What's important to the bike riding scene?
I wish we could have a warm weather training section, but Probably not this year.
Yeah, but again, then how to then deal with that? Because there are a lot of the big YouTube channels will have a lot of good sponsors that will then pay hand over fist to take them to places to go and make the content. Well, we could do that, but that's actually not our vibe. It's like, okay, let's think about it. We still need to get our training in that time of the year. How are we going to deal with that here in the UK? And more of that, I suppose, isn't it?
More of the same.
More of the same.
Of course, the last year, the last 9 months since COVID kicked in, the active travel and infrastructure of bike lanes and that in itself is opening up to be a big topic over the next couple of years, I think.
A very difficult topic, I think,
yes.
that it is. Because the problem is there is no magic wand we can wave to remedy a lot of the issues that exist on the roads. The roads are not set up for bikes and drivers to integrate that well.
No,
they're just not. It's a point that I'll make in one of the vlogs that goes live in the next few days is we were actually speaking with Cheshire Police to help them on a big video campaign, just for the sheer number of bike riders that have come out of the woodwork in the last few years. The number of people that have taken up a bike, found a joy of riding a bike, but the conflict that's occurring because of the number of drivers that aren't prepared to see that many bikes, it causes issues. As a police force, they struggle to communicate, to put forward the right message of how people should behave and what actually is the right answer to the various stupid questions people throw up. Yeah. But it's a difficult thing, isn't it? The English roads aren't great. The English mentality naturally around driving needs some progression. And there are no easy answers to that kind of stuff. It's going to take a long time, I'm afraid. It'd be interesting to see how that debate can be moved forward. What I find with those things is, as bike riders, we spend a lot of time talking about this topic and shouting for change and kind of screaming into a wind that just doesn't really care. Yeah. In the short term. Fast for my mind is fast forward 20 years. Where do we want to see the UK roads? What does that transportation network look like? That means boatloads more people ride bikes safely. Yeah. I don't care about the rest. I don't care about fast, how good they look. How do we get more people riding bikes safely on the UK roads? And the big thing we've got going for us right now is that there are loads of us. There are loads of bike riders now. You wind the clock back 12, 13, 14 years. There weren't nearly as many. Right, we've had the big Olympic push that got everyone into it, and then we've had the kind of second emergence in the last year or so with the lockdown and people going and picking up bikes and getting into bike riding. So there are loads of potential people that could be bike riders for life. I do a project with a local school here that are trying to encourage more kids to ride to school. And it's part the adults not thinking it's safe, and it's part the kids getting frustrated that they get a puncture every second week, but they don't know how to change it because no one's told them. Or they get cut up by cars, or cars beep at them, or whatever, and they're just like, oh, I don't want this stress. Yeah. Or they get to school, they get stigmatized because they're the people riding a bike. And so there's so many things in there. Try and bridge that gap to someone who is mid-40s, not ridden a bike since they were 12, doesn't know how to change a puncture, doesn't think the roads are safe, doesn't want to get wet. You try and insert that idea into their head of, go and get a bike. There's a lot of resistance there. That's our challenge.
So let's finish on a positive note, I guess. I always ask everybody how many bikes they own. Ones which are rideable, we can jump on. Nothing in the attic somewhere. Got to be rideable.
Do they all have to be here? Because I own several that I've currently loaned out to other people to pretend that I don't own them.
I don't know.
I tell you what, I'll give you two answers to the question. Yeah. I own 1, 2, 3 main bikes, and I own 1, 2, 3 secondary bikes, which I'm currently loaning people for them to enjoy, which I can get back if I need.
That's the fine print then. So we've got 6.
Yeah,
3 or 6. So of the 3 bikes that you've got, which if you could only keep one of them, and you had to get rid of the other 2, which would it be?
No question. My Red Factor 02 is the bike I've had for 4 years. I've done 30,000 kilometers on it. I will be buried with that bike in appropriate sized coffin.
Yeah. What about you, Jess?
I've got 3 bikes. That's it, all in.
Yeah.
All of them are rideable. The TT bike just hasn't got wheels on, but
The wheels are next to it.
throw some wheels on it.
Ready to go. Yeah.
Yeah, ready to go.
Oh God. That's difficult because I love my road bike. It's just a slight, I'd say middle of the range, specialised. But I've had it for a while, and we've like made it perfectly for me. But my TT bike is custom spray painted.
It is. How's your birthday present last year?
Yeah.
Christmas
That's
present last
really
year?
hard.
Yeah.
Can I keep 2?
Yeah, what the hell? It's only...
I think your road bike is my favourite.
Well, thank you for both being on Cycle Chat this week. It's been brilliant to speak to you both, George and Jess.
Pleasure.
Is there anything else you want to tell the viewers before we...
Well, remind us, is this going out on Christmas?
It will be Christmas Day, yes.
In that case, should we say?
Happy
Yes.
Christmas.
So in that case, yeah, there is something else to say. Merry Christmas to everybody.
Christmas, yeah.
Have a great Christmas day.
Yeah. And hopefully 2021's a bit more normal. That's what I've
Hopefully,
been
yeah.
writing into.
Absolutely, yeah.
Here's to a more normal 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, everybody, I just want to repeat what John and Jess said. I hope you all have a fantastic Christmas. And, of course, prosperous 2021. So, for me, take care. I shall see you all in the new year. Goodbye.
See ya.
Bye.